Welcome to McGuire on Wrestling.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
With Mike McGuire.
Stand up, son. Let me take a good look at you.
This guy's a serious professional.
You know what I want to talk about?
Yeah.
Well, the professional wrestling. Do I have your attention now?
Done shilling. I'm done shilling, okay?
Let's get this show on the road.
I love professional wrestling.
Hello, scallywags and slop tarts. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed Tony Storm's terminology until recently. Slop tarts that's got to be one of the best. Not since Slap Nuts, I think, with Jeff Jarrett has there been a interesting term to call an opponent as slop tart. I'm Mike McGuire. This is a special ad break free edition of McGuire on Wrestling, posting and airing on a Monday like we always do on the radio, but posting after the monster weekend of pro wrestling we just endured together, friends. Maybe you watched some of it, maybe you watched none of it. Either way, we're going to talk about a lot of it, and it's not going to be just me. Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer is here. He's standing by in just a few minutes. We're going to go through all the happenings, all the news that came through. I'm sure you've heard a lot of the headlines, a lot of the stories that came out of it. We've got injuries on both AEW and WWE side of things. We've got major changes. We've got title changes. We've got everything you can think of. And that's usually what happens when you have not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 high caliber events throughout the weekend. Although, again, no disrespect. I don't mean to speak ill of Ring of Honor. It's just hard sometimes to consider that the same caliber, but they do, and they put on a show and they do their thing. That nevertheless, WWE came in with their counter programming, if you want to call it that. Either way, it was a ton of great shows for people that wanted to watch some wrestling this weekend. If you're like me and you talk about it for a show, you realize that you don't want this to ever happen again anytime soon, because, dear Lord, on Friday, before this all happened, we have some events going on where I live here in southern Alberta, and it's a big weekend for the city. And I was saying to myself, you're only going to get one opportunity to breathe some air and touch some grass. So on Friday night, I said, we're going camping, and we went camping. We went camping to a little lake south of here, and I went fishing. Caught a little walleye, too small to be legal, so he lives to swim another day, and continued to just enjoy some fresh air before coming home, turning on the TV, the iPad, everything, and having it all ready to go to start watching AEW's All In, to start watching Saturday night's main event, caught some highlights of Great American Bash, and then did it all again on Sunday after doing a thing for work with the local baseball team, and went home and watched Evolution. My goodness. I didn't even add it all up. I heard somewhere it was 12, 13 hours if you were just watching the actual shows. That's a lot, man. That's a whole day, literally, like waking hours. That's a whole day of watching pro wrestling, which back in the day sounded like a fantasy. Remember when you only got like an hour or two a week? And that was your wrestling to watch. It was it, an hour. Here in Canada, that was the standard norm for the longest time, because we wouldn't even get the full episodes of Raw and Nitro when they aired. If you remember living in Canada back in the day when Nitro first came on, north of the border, it was on TSN, and they only aired an hour of it. I remember they cut from the middle of a Lex Luger match to commercial, came back, and there was no match. They were on to the next segment. So it aired on Wednesdays too, which was also super weird. You'd watch Raw on Monday and then Nitro on Wednesdays or Saturdays if it was that weird before time. There was some guy in a TV studio who you knew didn't work for WCW. He was like probably the local weather guy somewhere, and he'd introduce the Nitro segments. And yeah, anyway, to have the embarrassment of riches and wealth that we have of high caliber wrestling and high caliber shows these days is one thing, but gosh, it's a lot to watch. It's a lot to watch, and it made me wonder if I was even wanting to pay this close of attention to wrestling that much anymore. And the truth is, I do. I always will, because I'm a wrestling fan. Sometimes too much is too much, but eventually you shake it off and go, more please. And if that's why you're listening, that's why you're here. I appreciate you for that. So like I said, we're going ad-free today as far as commercial breaks go. I'm just going to do one quick plug. If you want to support the show, please consider that. It's not for our egos or our checkbooks either, but if you want to splash a little bit of donations our way, you can do that a couple ways. The merch shop is open at CelebrateWrestling.com. The overdue shirts are being addressed right now for those of you in the larger sizes. I apologize, but they're going to be shipped with some bonus goodies coming up very soon. And then if we need to get you something that's on stock already, Celebrate Wrestling and GWO shirts are in stock in all sizes up to 2X right now. We can get those out to you right away. Plus, new shirts coming at the end of the month. But if you'd like to donate, just support the show via PayPal, maybe help cover a pay-per-view bill or two, because Lord knows there's going to be more. CelebrateWrestling.com has all the info on where you can do that. I invite you to subscribe to our great podcasts as well. Don't forget the alternate commentary table, which this week dropped on Sunday and normally drops on a Saturday. Andy Evans has a bunch of Legends and Champions shows in the can and ready to go. They post every Wednesday on the feed, and all you have to do is follow Celebrate Wrestling wherever you get your podcasts, and you're helping us out just like that. So like I said, you've probably heard or read or seen a lot of the headlines and a lot of the stories coming out of all these events over the weekend. That's why we're going to forego the 5 count this week and get right into it. So on this special ad break free edition of McGuire on Wrestling, let's bring in, from the Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer.
It's time for the Wrestling Observer Insider with Dave Meltzer, McGuire on Wrestling.
Well, Dave, we survived it. Barely in my case. I don't know about you, but I'm just having to go through all that wrestling and then having some work commitments and then a morning radio show. I'm happy to maybe skip Raw tonight and maybe watch it later tomorrow or something. How about you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to watch Raw, but it's a lot. I don't think it's a good idea that they did this, but I get why. You know, I mean, it's the nature of the beast. Probably won't be the last time this happens either.
All indicators seem to be that. So if you're just tuning in for some reason, didn't know what happened this weekend, of course, there were 5 big shows overall. And you started with the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. I know that much. And then, of course, there was AEW All In, Great American Bash from NXT. We had Saturday night's main event. We had Evolution. And it all took place from Friday to Sunday. And from all accounts, the one thing I can say coming out of all these shows is that there really wasn't a stinker among them. Like, they all did what they do very well. Do you agree with that?
I didn't think Great American Bash was good at all. I thought it was the worst NXT show of that type that they've done, and worse because they went head to head with a great show.
Right.
That if you're going, like, it's like, again, NXT was the opposition show. AEW had already scheduled the date, long ago. So they chose to go head to head for a reason. And my thinking is that if you're going to go head to head, you should go in there with your best foot forward. And I just thought, I get the mentality going in that, we're going to go to center stage, little building. We're going to pack it. It's going to be really loud. They're going to be in the stadium that's empty, and it's going to look really bad. But the stadium wasn't empty, and the other show was so much better. And I just thought that show was listless. Saturday main event was fine for what it was. I thought the Goldberg match was as good as a match as you're going to get in that situation. The women's show I thought was great. I would say good except for the main event. I mean, the main event was just phenomenal. And then All In was, a show of the year candidate and Supercard of Honor, that might have been the best show. Wrestling wise, I think it was the best show because it certainly had the best match. I mean, there's nothing that touched Bandito and Takeshita. That was that was one of the best matches I've ever seen.
I did go back and watch that after hearing the hype about it, because it was just that. And then they even talked about it in the Casino Battle Royal the next day about how these guys had just had this crazy drag out knockdown match, and then we're back in the Battle Royal. And So I had to see what the fuss was all about. And yeah, I mean, Ring of Honor, if you're a fan of legitimate style pro wrestling, you know, just wear and tear and get in there and get it done. I mean, they're doing it. The problem is they just don't have the audience. And
no, they don't. They don't.
The fans are missing out on that. So you have to really go out of your way to seek it, and it can be a bit of a pain to do that. So
yeah, they don't have television, and I don't. You know, I mean, they do. You know, AEW does probably need some sort of developmental thing, and ROH kind of serves as that. But you know, it is tough when your developmental thing is on a pay service, you know what I mean? As opposed to, you know, WWE has all kinds of developmental. They got the Evolve show on Tubi and LFG's on A&E, you know what I mean? They have NXT on CW. And AEW has got, it's not even like on YouTube. It's a pay service. I mean, like I could see putting the pay-per-views as pay-per-views, you know what I mean? As special shows, but
right.
It's like you want to get some exposure to the guys and the stories before you have these big shows, because the only people the exposure of the angles are to is very small audience.
And that's just it. You know, we also heard great things about Athena's match. And of course,
it was good.
She came out to come ahead in the Casino Battle Royal for the women. I'm thrilled for her. I think she's, you know, and I've been saying this for a while, I think she's been putting out the best stuff of her career. She seems to be in the best shape of her career too. I don't know what it is. She just seems different, and there's a new fire there. So
there's a new fire there. Yeah. I think she knows that right now, you know, she's getting the shot on national TV that she never got anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And I think that she's in great condition, and her wrestling's the best it's ever been.
Well, she's a friend of this show, and very happy to see her finally getting her just dues here. So we have to start with All In. I mean, it was the biggest show of the weekend. I think that when we went into this weekend, I had asked people, I think I had even asked you, you know, what were we going to be talking about on Monday morning? I thought a lot of people were going to be saying Goldberg, but it turns out that All In may have just taken it all. And I think they got it almost perfect in a lot of ways on that show. There, you know, little things you can nitpick here and there. The one thing I'm always going to complain about, though, and it's my right to, because it's my day, it's my time, 7 hours.
I know.
7 dang hours.
I thought, I knew they would go long. I knew they would go past 8 because of Saturday Night's Main Event. I didn't know, but I mean, I figure on mentalities of people, you know, that and I know the people on both sides. I knew that they were going to go past 8. I didn't know they were going to go all the way to 9. That was really long. It was too long for a normal person. I mean, I think that 5 is as long as they should go. I think that because it was an afternoon show, perhaps there's a little bit of leeway. You know, he wanted to put on the greatest pay-per-view of all time. I don't know that it was, but I mean, that was the goal, and he wanted to have the greatest matches on any pay-per-view. And, you know, he had some great matches. I mean, it's hard to compare. Their standard is so high right now on pay-per-view. It's ridiculous. But, you know, I mean, they had, you know, 4 matches that were just incredible, you know, that would have been match of the year, you know, 10 years ago, you know, 4 different ones. It's kind of blows your mind if you think about it.
Well, and that's just it. You know, there's so many things that I liked about All In, which I normally don't say as universally, as generously as I do for AEW pay-per-views and WWE as well. Like I've been really kind of hoping for something grandiose to happen. And I thought, as far as feel-good moments, I thought as far as payoffs and everything that you wanted for, we finally slayed a lot of dragons with this pay-per-view. This actually felt like a pay-per-view to blow off feuds instead of the endless continuation of things, which, whether it works for ratings or not, is irrelevant to me. Fan exhaustion is what I go by. So if it's something that you're just tired of seeing, this was a great blow-off show to me. You know, it opens up a whole bunch of new, fresh channels. I mean, the sad story of Adam Cole opened up a really interesting story about Dustin Rhodes, you know?
Yeah, that was a really good pivot. There's an unexpected one.
Yeah, all these crazy good things that came out of this show. And I'm so glad they didn't screw it up by trying to hold on to some of these feuds a little bit longer. Like everything was blown off. We talked about Toni Storm and Mercedes, how, keeping Tony.
I would like to see that feud continue. I don't.
Well, it can continue, but I needed to see the AEW Women's Championship be better than all those other belts.
I mean, I wouldn't have cared who won. I mean, that one, I didn't know who was going to win. And I thought as the match was going on, it was basically they're having a great match. It doesn't matter who wins. All I want is something to where they can bring it back because it is too big of a program to only do one match.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, it should be three. And whatever they do, I don't think who won that match was necessarily important. If Mercedes would have won, you have the thing, well, Tony's the baby face, she's chasing her. That's fine. I kind of can see why you would have Mercedes, lose only because she's never lost, so it's time. I mean, I would save her first loss to somebody on the way up rather than somebody who's already at her level. But I mean, I'm not. That's nitpicky. It could have gone either way, and it was fine.
I don't know if Tony's peaked though. Toni Storm. I think there's still room in this thing.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, her and Mercedes need to keep bringing each other up, though. Mm-hmm. I mean, the problem there is that right now in the AEW women's division, you got Toni Storm and Mercedes, and number 3 is Megan Bayne, and Megan Bayne is a very distant number 3. So and Toni Storm's already beat her, although they left that enough open-ended where they can go back to it. But it is for Toni Storm. It's like if she goes in there with Megan Bayne, it's not going to be a step up from Mercedes.
We're talking to Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer. It is Monday after the crazy monster weekend of wrestling. Of course, we're talking about AEW's All In right now. We'll get back to the matches here in just a second. We did touch on it a second ago, though. Adam Cole's stepping down as TNT champion and having to give up the title. Now, I saw a report come out from one place saying that it may be concussion related. Do we know for sure what's taking Adam out of the game yet?
Everything that's been intimated to me is that it was from a concussion from a clothesline from Kyle Fletcher on Thursday, but I don't know. They've been, no one said that.
Right.
I kind of know it, but it's like, and I've been in contact with all the people, but nobody said that publicly, but privately, that's kind of been how it's been intimated to me that it was from something that happened Thursday night on Collision.
Well, either way, it's definitely unexpected in some ways. But I mean, Adam Cole has had just a rough go in AEW.
Terrible last couple of years.
And it hasn't gotten any better for the guy. I was having this discussion. I don't want to get too deep into it because we can say that either side is guilty of it. And any wrestling company and any wrestling promoter is guilty of it. But is there a danger you feel with how competitive it is right now, especially in the North American scene of... I don't know if WWE's as liberal to do it as much as they used to be, but letting guys determine their own ability to go out and wrestle safely and not get hurt. Because, this isn't the first time we've seen this with somebody either. And I'm not going to specify either company, but we're seeing wrestlers go out and get hurt. We can talk about Rollins too with the same thing with the knee thing, but different stories, different circumstances, but still kind of an underlying theme of maybe people either coming back too soon or coming back at all in the hopes of getting that.
I actually think that right now there's less pressure on people to come back early than there were like 10 years ago. Because I know of people who had knee injuries, who were told a certain time off, and 2/3 of the way through, it's like, can you come back? Can you come back? You know what I mean? That pressure that was put on them. And it would have been way too early. And some of them did come back way too early. And some of them just said, no, and that depends on your status and what, how in love you are with wrestling versus how in love you are with the rest of your life. But, I think that the medical professionals, it feels to me, and this is a universal thing, I think that they clear people too easily because, I've seen stuff where guys are really hurt and, look at Cody Rhodes, right? That's a perfect example. And he wanted to do it and they let him do it, but it's kind of like, dude, you tore your pec. You know what I mean? that's like a really serious injury. And then he went in there and did a Hell in a Cell match.
Well, you and I broke that story. I was there in Chicago that day. It was terrifying, especially when he took that robe off. But that's exactly what I mean, though. Okay, so Cody gets to determine his own fate, and he even goes on the microphone after that and says, "Nobody forced me to do this. I was willing to do it myself."
And believe me, he was. I know it. I know the situation. I know.
I don't doubt it either.
He wanted to do it, but I don't. I mean, like I was more like sometimes you have to protect people from themselves, and I don't know that is done often enough.
Well, and that Hell in a Cell was still the Vince era. Now we're in the TKO era with their experience with fighters, with everything else going on the UFC side. Now they're getting into the boxing world and all these other things. Like there has to be a point as a publicly traded company, as whatever license you want to put in there, whatever sort of caveat you want to put in there, where they just have to be taking these injuries and potential injuries more seriously, don't they?
I hope so.
Yeah, it would be wildly. I mean, and that's where I'm not saying AEW doesn't, but AEW doesn't have that pressure, but they still have enough people that they can give wrestlers time off.
They also have experience with a lot of guys that have had a lot of injuries, as has WWE, to where it's injuries and giving to people adequate time off for injuries. And they do actually. A lot of times you see people who are out with injuries that they're out for a long, long time. I mean, I don't favor one company or the other when it comes to this. I think that there's situations and a lot of the injury. I mean, AEW guys definitely do more dangerous stuff, but most of the injuries, the vast majority of the injuries are not from dangerous stuff. They're from routine stuff and stuff happens. I mean, that's why the injury rate for both companies is essentially the same. People would go like, "Oh, AEW is so much more dangerous." And it's like, I mean, I chart the injury rate constantly. Every couple of months, I go through there, and it's not statistically enough different. I mean, usually AEW has less by percentage, but it's so much less. The number is so, it's identical. It's like you're just, what's the difference between 12.3 and 12.6%? You know what I mean? It's like it's the same thing. Sorry to interrupt. I saw a quote from your tag partner there, and Brian Alvarez, talking about that he'd gotten word about Rollins' knee injury and saying it might have been from something that happened earlier in the week. Do you know anything about that? That's from John Pollock. Well, I take that back. That's not John Pollock. John Pollock was the one who broke that he had been told what was going to happen with the knee injury in that match with LA Knight, that he had been told on Thursday before Saturday.
Oh, okay.
Which means that, I mean, there's like, it's a real ambiguous thing because everyone in WWE is saying that it happened there. John Pollock, who I will tell you, I trust 1,000%.
Same here. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. He already knew on Thursday. He'd already been told this. So I'm saying, okay, whatever. So Brian's theory, and it may be, and I'm thinking the same thing, is the injury is probably real, but it probably happened beforehand, and that was a cover because why would you take him out when he was in the middle of being like in such a big thing? So that's my theory as well. I don't know it. I have asked people in the company, and they did not. No one denied it. No one would deny it. And when I brought up the Pollock thing, no one told me, "Oh, he's wrong," and it's a real injury and happened in this spot. I'm just getting no answers. So everything is leading me to believe that it's something along those lines.
Well, if it was worked very well. I'll give it that for sure. But we'll talk more about the WWE side of things coming up. Let's get back to All In here with Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer. And Dave, of course, the other matches that were kind of the marquee matches on this one, they called it a triple main event. We've already talked about Tony and Mercedes. Let's go to Okada Omega with your history of following both these guys and, of course, their history, their rivalry in the past. Do you feel this match held up?
Well, it depends on what was it as good as the matches they had in Japan when they were younger? No. I thought the match was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. In some ways, I mean, obviously from a selling standpoint, it was the best one of the 5 that they've done. And there was a lot of really good athletic stuff, and Okada was awesome in a lot of ways, and Omega his selling was great. It was a fantastic match. But, would I say it was one of the top 5 matches that I've ever seen in my life? No. But, that's what, when I watched it, my thought going in was, there's like Jushin Liger when he was young was maybe the best wrestler in the world. Okay. And then he got older and he was still one of the best wrestlers in the world, but he became, instead of the guy throwing the 105-mile-an-hour fastball, he became the greatest knuckleball pitcher. And that's what I was kind of thinking here. It's like, they're not, they're not going to be doing what Bandito and Takeshita do.
Right.
They're going to be doing something else, and they did it really well, what they were doing.
Well, either way, I thought it was great. I sometimes wonder now if Kenny should just retire the V-trigger, because how many did we get in that match? I think there was like 5 or 7, or I don't know how many he hit, but I was just like, okay, V-trigger is clearly not a finisher, but that's okay. Got the one-winged angel on, but still, Okada walks out as champion here. Probably the right move to go with. As far as
I mean, there's just so many factors. You just don't know, like how Okada's the healthier of the two. Mm-hmm. So I think that plays a part into it. If it was the other way around and Omega was the healthier of the two, I would have certainly put Omega over.
This match wasn't billed as a main event, but you and I talked about it in depth and said that this is exactly basically how it should be, with the Young Bucks, the founding fathers, as it were, now losing their EVP status against the combination of Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland. I mean, interesting match. Everybody's talking about this sequence in the middle of the match that was just nuts with, I couldn't call that. There was just so much going on. But as far as that match doing what it needed to do, we still have Ospreay and Swerve as top contenders now.
Yeah, from a booking standpoint, it gives you a hell of a lot more options than taking those two off the board for your pay-per-view main events.
Well, exactly. We talked about last week with the potential for injuries and God knows what else could happen. But when it comes down to the Bucks and this EVP thing, like how much of this is legit? Are they still part of the office? Or is this all story?
I think that they're still EVPs, but I think that I think that they felt that they've done that storyline and they needed a way out of that storyline. So this was the way out.
Okay. So yeah, the heel authority figure is.
Yeah, I think that they want to get rid of the heel authority figure thing. I think that was too WWE.
Okay. And let's get down to what was definitely not WWE, the main event for the AEW Championship with Hangman Adam Page and Jon Moxley. I thought in a lot of ways this was exactly what it needed to be. I'm glad that this was the only match that really got a ton of blood and a ton of craziness and a ton of chaos. But, and I take umbrage with this, and I have no reason to other than personal preference. So help me, Dave, and we don't cuss on this show, but I want to so badly. I do not ever, still to this day, 25, 26 years later, I don't need to see wrestlers rappelling from the roofs or ceilings of stadiums, arenas, anything. I don't need to see it. I don't care who says it's okay. I don't care who's giving it its blessing. But the chaos.
I can't argue, with that one. I mean, it's been done many times before. Look, as it's happening, do I have that little thing in the back of my head going like, please don't happen, even though, the odds of it happening again are very low. It's like, I'll never be able to shake that. That's the reality. I'll never be able to shake that. Every time I see a guy come down, it's going to give me that thing of something very, very uncomfortable.
But what does it add to a show, to a match, to anything that just showing up any other way wouldn't? That's what I have a problem with, is that there's
I can't argue, and I think you're right. I mean, Darby showing up in any other way still would have worked. I mean, I get the symbolism. I mean, I get why they do it. He's coming down from Mount Everest. You know what I mean? But and then I think the other thing is that, it's 26 years ago, and there with the idea that, there are some people who are watching from 26 years ago, maybe several, but a lot of people aren't. They're not going to have the reaction I'm going to have. They're not as close to, the Hart family members as maybe you and I are. That's not I think that's just the mentality. but yeah, I would have preferred that not happening too.
Well, yeah. Anyway, back to the actual match itself. I mean, everything you can think of happened in this thing. The barbed wire came out early, and that turned out to be like the appetizer for all the craziness that would ensue. The bed of nails, bed of spikes, getting DDT'd into that thing at one point was Adam Page. I mean, I was hoping to God that neither one of them would get suplexed on him, which fortunately didn't happen. But, I mean... you've watched a bazillion Texas death matches. You've watched death matches. I'm sure you've watched CCW and the Japanese explosion matches and everything. Like, where does this rank in necessary levels of violence in today's pro wrestling?
I've seen way worse in Japan.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. Yeah,
I've seen way worse. I as far as the story of the match and the storytelling in the match, I thought it was phenomenal. I was in awe in many ways of how well they did those last several minutes of the match. Did I like, it's like, it's all taste. I'm glad, it's like the whole show wasn't Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but that match was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It just was. And I'm not a fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre pro wrestling matches at all. But I can't look at it and go, it wasn't an incredible performance and a great match. At the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, sometimes there's matches that I hate that you just got to say, you know what? I mean, it's not just listen to the pop, but that's part of it. It's like, listen to the pop.
Absolutely.
I mean, the match worked. But was it a turnoff to some people? 100%. I know lots of people who were grossed out by it and not in a good way.
You're listening to McGuire on Wrestling on the radio and online. We are going break and commercial free today, talking to Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer after the monster weekend of pro wrestling from WWE and AEW. So we've gone through a lot of the card here for All In. We do have still so much more to talk about, but a lot of people are saying this could be the show of the year between both companies so far. We're in July now. Do you agree with that sentiment, Dave?
AEW's big shows this year have been so good. I'm not so sure that Revolution and Double or Nothing in some ways weren't better. I think from an emotional standpoint, this was the best one because of the finish of the show. I mean, I think that the end of the main event was really something, and the storytelling up and down the show was the best of any of them. I think that we've had shows that have had more excellent matches. Not that this one didn't have them. That one show that had the 3 straight 5-star matches, that's pretty much impossible to beat. But I think that when it could win show of the year. I mean, I do think AEW will probably finish 1, 2, and 3 in show of the year, though, between Revolution, Double or Nothing, and this one, though.
You're thinking for your Wrestling Observer Awards for the votes?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, those are going to be hard to beat. I don't know how you beat them.
Well, and I don't know, and no disrespect, because again, we like liking things here, but WWE has done what they do, but there hasn't been that big feeling yet, I feel, for them this year. So I guess we'll see what happens. John Cena might turn everything around, though. We'll see what happens by the end of the year.
He's never gonna have a main event like these guys had.
No, but I mean, stranger things have happened. Half of it's the wrestling, half of it's the emotion, and it's all reactive and subject to fan opinion. Okay, well, Dave, let's switch over now to WWE's multiple efforts. I'll be honest, I didn't get to watch a lot of the Bash, so I'm going to skip that one for now because we have enough to talk about between the other two shows here. Saturday night's main event did have some opposition going alongside from AEW's All In. Do you know if AEW's move to go longer changed any of the timing for Saturday night's main event at all?
I doubt it.
You think they kind of wrote off that first hour just in case? It was a good hour. For what they do, it was a great first hour.
I don't think there's anything that AEW did that changed anything about Saturday night's main event. No.
Okay.
I think they just were going to do what they were going to do. I think they were probably surprised. I don't know that. I guess they probably should have expected what I expected, which was that they would go 15 minutes over just to prove that they could. I wouldn't have expected to go in a full hour because then you're talking about, a show that's too long. But Tony's not shy about long shows. That's for sure. That was the longest pay-per-view there's ever been. I mean, as far as it's not the longest show there's ever been, but it was the longest pay-per-view show that there's ever been.
So that, what was it, 5 hours, 56 minutes for the pay-per-view?
5 hours, 56 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. Jeez.
I think one of the WrestleManias was just underneath that.
Wow. Well, maybe that's what he was going for then. Who knows?
Yeah.
But they ran against, obviously, the AEW All In. But, I mean, like we said, if people are going to watch WWE, they're going to watch WWE. And there are those fans that's all they know and that's all they care about. So as far as progressing storylines went, I mean, we have the Jelly Roll, Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul match set up now for SummerSlam. I work in country radio. We don't talk about Jelly Roll's involvement in wrestling all that much, if at all. So I don't know if that's going to be as big of a draw as they think. But at the same time, he's a big star in the music world, and he gets a lot of press coverage. He gets a lot of clicks. So we'll see what happens here. Do you think that's going to be a big enough spectacle to draw eyes, or do they have bigger plans?
I don't know. I think that like celebrities that people think are tough guys when they're put in pro wrestling work, or have a certain obnoxiousness like Logan Paul, I think that works. But Bad Bunny was not a failure. He worked really hard and he did really good things in the ring, but he doesn't fit in that category, and they did do well with him. So maybe, it'll get a pop. It'll work. It'll work to a degree, but I don't know. When you do stuff like that, you want it to be a game changer. But, again, what they're looking for, it's probably just like social media clicks. Will it get that? Yeah, it will. Will it draw? You're not looking at pay-per-view buys. People spending an extra $50, $75, right, for a show. Mm-hmm. Which Mr. T did, right? And Mike Tyson obviously worked at, and others have over the years. But I don't know the Jelly Roll would fit into that category. But as far as, will it get a lot of curiosity views? Yeah, 100% it will. And that's a lot of what they're working for now. So for their perspective, it'll work. Yeah.
You said Goldberg's match was about as good as it could get. A lot of the fans we asked on the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page kind of agree it was what it was. I was happy personally to see him put Gunther over. I thought that was the right thing to do from an old school traditional standpoint, at least leave looking at the lights somewhat. Yep. As far as the match and the farewell, everything in that match seemed kind of rushed, didn't it? Like, especially the entrance and everything. Like, it was a really weird timing for that.
Well, they definitely ran late. It's like, look, the finish, they rushed off after the finish, and then you didn't get to see the post match. And the post match was the best part of the entire show. Everyone there live told me that the post match was the best thing on the show. We didn't see any of it. So they had a major timing problem. They went long, and they didn't have the the whatever. Like when you're on Netflix, you can just go long. When you're on Tony Khan, on a live show, he can call them up and just go, hey, we need 6 extra minutes, and they'll get it. These guys are on NBC, and one of the problems with NBC is that 10 o'clock, you're done. You're not a sport. You're done at 10, and they mistimed the show.
The weird thing for me, as someone who was watching in Canada, was that I didn't watch it on NBC. I watched it on YouTube, as most of the rest of the world could have as well. So I'm curious as to why they wouldn't have just kept the feed going on YouTube at least. I know they've posted everything since, but
okay. They could have, but I think their mentality is that it ends at 10. They are a worldwide product, as is AEW. But they still, everything still revolves around the United States. You know what I mean? Like if AEW was in a similar situation, they're going to end the show when it ends in the United States. They're not going to go longer. Like if there's a big interview that they didn't get to, that they're not putting, they're not going to keep it on their Triller feed or their, whatever. It's everything revolves around what they're allowed to do in the United States.
We're fast running out of time here, so let's talk a little bit about Evolution here. A lot of people having a lot of praise for the opening match, the Intercontinental Women's Championship between Becky, Bayley, and Lyra Valkyria. It seemed a little odd, and Joe Aguinaldo and I have talked about it here on the show, where Lyra's she seems to be trying to find her way to settle in and fit in. Do you think this match helped her at all?
I think it helped her from a respect standpoint. I think one of the ideas is to get her on the plane of the other two because she's the youngest of the three. And the other two are established stars. Will bring her up. And it did more good. I don't know if it worked all the way, but it was a step. So yeah, I think it was good for her, and I thought she was the one who was going to lose the fall, and she didn't. So that tells you something too, that they want to protect her.
And let's jump right to the two women's world title matches, I suppose. Trish Stratus and Tiffany Stratton. Not bad. I mean, considering what you're getting with Trish at this point in her career, I mean, I didn't think it was terrible. I was honestly expecting a lot more of a heel nature from Tiffany Stratton, though. They got to pull the pin on her, don't they? They got to get this thing going with her as a bad guy.
Yeah, she's a natural heel. Yeah.
I can't buy into any of her good guy stuff at all.
No, she's natural. She's natural heel. Yeah. I don't know. She seemed to have lost a lot since she left. Like when she was in NXT, I thought that she was going to be this giant superstar. And, there's a bunch of different reasons why. I mean, she stood out so much athletically. She had a great look. And now it just feels like I don't know. She just doesn't stand out as much athletically as she did before. I don't know if they tone it down. But without that, I mean, psychology wise, experience wise, she's doesn't have it at that level yet, and you can't expect her to. But athletically is her big calling card, and when you take that away from her and just have her do the moonsault, which goddamn everyone in wrestling does moonsaults now, that's not a special thing. It's like, and her promos, her delivery and everything, it's such a heel delivery that I don't know that works as a babyface.
No, she still snatches her hand away from the ref after getting her hand raised. It's got to be a matter of time now. But everybody thought the cash in could have happened from Naomi on Tiffy, but no, we found out later on after. I had vibes of when the ref got taken out after the crazy dropkick between Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. I had vibes, and I'm not saying it was the same match, but I had vibes of Brett Stone Cold from WrestleMania when they were fighting in the stands and everything, because they did everything they could out there to work. And I don't know, Io Sky and Rhea Ripley just beat the tar out of each other, it felt like.
Yeah, they had a great match. Really great match, yeah.
Definitely match that show. It
was WWE match of the weekend by far. I mean, by far.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, I mean, it was one of the best matches of the weekend. I mean, and this was a weekend with a lot of great matches.
I don't know how. I mean, it's funny because they're both in great condition for who they are, I know. But, I mean, just the fact that Io Sky can take that much of a beating as well as Rhea Ripley, it was just.
Yeah, but she came from Japan where it was a lot tougher physically than here.
I guess, yeah. And there were little workarounds on some spots. If you were paying attention, you could see how things were done. But, I mean, overall, I thought it delivered as a main event. There seems to be a mixed bag, though. Some people are loving the Naomi cash in on the match for the triple threat. Some people are saying, nah, it should have been the other way around. Where do you think the business goes for this? Because obviously they're setting up for Jade versus Naomi, but Jade's supposed to be facing the SmackDown champion, isn't she?
I think that Jade and Naomi's done. I thought that was the blow off. And Rhea Ripley needs a heel. I mean, look at the Raw side. The only one was, Raquel Rodriguez, and she just beat her. So right. She needs a heel. And that was the thing I was thinking of because I thought Rhea was going to win the title here. And it was just like, she needs a heel. Who's the heel? Yeah, she can go and wrestle Io Sky forever and it'll always be great, but she still needs a heel to feud with. And now she's got one. So, I mean, from a booking standpoint, I wasn't expecting it, but when it happened, it was like, yeah, I think it's pretty good. I think it's a pretty good idea.
So Jade versus Tiffy stands then.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. I could see that, now that we've talked about it and we've hashed it out a bit, I could see Tiffany being the heel, Jade being the babyface, and this still works as their plans because, like we've said, they want Jade to be champion, so that makes sense in the world. So, all right, well, Dave, we have used all our time here talking about some of this crazy wrestling weekend. I know you guys and girls and everybody are talking about it like crazy for the next week, I'm sure. I'm sure that's going to fill a lot of the Wrestling Observer newsletter for you. I don't know how you write anything else, do you?
No, it's going to be the main stuff, but something will probably pop up, yeah.
All right.
There's always news every week, so.
We will see what happens for sure. Again, for injury updates, for storyline updates, all that stuff. Dave Meltzer and the crew at Wrestling Observer, WrestlingObserver.com have you covered. Dave, go touch some grass. Go outside and breathe some air, because that's what I'm going to do as soon as this show is done.
Okay.
Thanks, pal. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Have a great week.
And that right there is why we are taking no breaks this week for McGuire on Wrestling, just straight show, because 44 minutes in, and Dave Meltzer and I barely scratching the surface of some of the stories to come out of this past weekend. But without further ado, you had your thoughts as well. We're going to share them in an express edition of Yay Boo.
Yay boo, it's lots of fun to do. If you like it, holla yay. If you don't, you holla boo.
Every PLE or major event, we get you to leave your feedback and thoughts on the Celebrate Wrestling Facebook page, and that's exactly what you were kind enough to do here. Lots of great feedback, so we're going to start with the biggest show, and that was AEW's All In. Your Yay Boo reactions. The rules are simple. You offer a yay or a boo. And if you like, you can offer an explanation for why you chose what we chose, but there's no middle ground. So if you're going to give it a meh or a half yay, then it's automatically a boo. That's the rule. I do make the rules. So what are you going to do? All right, let's start off with Vinny B. Sweet Vinny B. Aside from being way too long, this show has been great so far, taking me roughly 20 separate sittings. Unless the main event, which I haven't gotten to yet, sucks, it's a yay. And then you found out that it did not disappoint. AEW wins the weekend hands down. Jamie Ouellette says, yay, all yay. The casino matches all felt like a perfect ballet of people coming in and out. Cody Brown gave it a yay with great storytelling. Gave me a WrestleMania 40 vibes with Cody and Roman. Bob Hunt says, yay, because AEW can put a belt on a 56-year-old and we all mark out. Meanwhile, in WWE, a 58-year-old is a champion in a championship match is the most absurd thing the internet wrestling community can imagine. That's fair. Chris Hodnott says, big yay. Don't order many of the pay-per-views. This one was definitely worth it. The entire card was stacked. It may have been a bit long, but did not feel like it. I will respectfully disagree with that, Chris. Some surprises with the change to the Cole and Fletcher match to become a fatal four-way. Glad to see Dustin win, although this is just temporary. Or is this just temporary? It will be interesting to see where the TNT title picture goes. Good to see so many of the roster get an appearance and even some surprises to even out the odds in the Texas Death Match. Andy Evans from Legends and Champions says, a perfect yay. Great results with Tony, Dustin, etc., but too much blood in the main event. See, this is the one time where... And again, I'm not all for bleeding like a stuck pig, but at least that was the only match it happened in. You know, they needed to do that. They needed to save that level and degree of violence like Dave and I were talking about, I feel, for that match, and it made sense. All right, Devin Axman, who was there, by the way. Devin, I am going to reach out to you because I want to get you on the show next week to talk more about your all-in experience. He says, biggest yay and funnest wrestling show I've been to in my life. Crowd was nuclear hot the whole time. If it was quiet on TV, it was the acoustics. All of the big matches delivered. The Bucks showed why they're one of the best of all time, and Swerve and Ospreay delivered one of the best tag matches I've ever seen. Tony and Mercedes were incredible. Mercedes' creative control is really weird, where she lets people drop her on her head and lose at the perfectly built time. What a bumper she is. Okada and Omega was great with a ton of story beats in the match, and if you've watched their other ones, Mox had the best selling I have ever seen in a match at the end. All of the run-ins made sense. Also, JoJo singing Swerve's theme from the Indies with the Fireflies ruled. Dustin winning was a fun moment. Gauntlets were long but had some fun moments. I was actually most interested, Devin, in your feedback there because you were there, and we will try and get you on the show, pal, if you want to come on. Mike Marquardt, I'm going to read half yours here because he got a long one here, but nevertheless, he says, the biggest of yays, the show did run long, but it never felt long. The 7-hour WrestleManias felt like they were dragging. This didn't. I was into everything after Cole dropped that bomb on us. I didn't check to see what time it is. I didn't have a bathroom break. The matches were all different. Basically, he's saying he peed his pants. I'm just kidding. The storytelling was as much in the ring as it was on the promos leading to it, and the much maligned Moxley storyline makes complete sense now. Mox told us he's going to bring the feeling back in the company. He was going to give AEW a better future. Lo and behold, that's exactly what he did. Oh, interesting. You know what? That is an interesting perspective. You know what? I'll take it all away to bring the feeling back. Maybe that's the approach you're saying happened, Mike. Maybe that's exactly how it went. John Persky says, yay, as long as it was, it never dragged. All the right people won. Happy for Dustin. Fun surprises. Thank you for keeping it short, John. Tommy Lang, yay, they finally killed the Young Bucks EVP storyline and it took the belt off Moxley in the same night. Those alone make it a success. See, and this is what I said with Dave earlier. This felt like a very high blow-off show. Between those two things and the fact that some of the talent has recently made in-character comments on the air about AEW needing to be improved and tells me they're aware that they need to tweak the product and they're working on it. Mitch Hansius from the alternate commentary table says, absolute yay, hitting the mark perfectly. Still had some surprises. Best pay-per-view or PLE of 2025 without issue. Alan Chambers says, yay, it was a long day, but they did a lot right, except they will have to do a lot of justification to make me sympathize with Christian. Yeah, how weird was that? We got to feel sorry for Christian Cage all of a sudden? No. Don't need to feel sorry for our father figure at all. He said, I felt sick watching Athena drop on the apron. Oh, yeah. Yeah, but Athena did some great stuff in that match, too. When Christian dragged Spike across the mat, the nails were bending, probably picked the wrong camera angle. The matches were fun. The main events delivered. Would have liked more surprises in the gauntlet match, but I'm so glad to see so many were given pay-per-view time to shine. I got my money's worth, and I'd recommend to those who still want to watch it. Craig Usher says, yay, AEW All In 2025 was an absolute blast. The show flew by with amazing pacing, great matches, and stories that kept you locked in from start to finish. The three main events delivered big time, and the big boom guys on the pre-show were the perfect kickoff. Really? All right. Also seeing Kevin Von Erich lock in the Iron Claw in Dallas was a huge pop. They've really become a highlight, AEW at its best. Yeah, you can't be in Texas without a Von Erich, okay? All right, we're running out of time here already, guys. Blaine, up until the fourth match, it was a boo, but by the end, they had my thumbs at a 45-degree upward angle, so that's a yay, I suppose, which is my final grade. All right, Blaine, I'll let it slide this time. He says, I made a comment in another group that Dustin Rhodes could be to AEW what Terry Funk was to ECW. I'm happy he got to have his moment, though I think it was a left field surprise. I wonder if this means that Fletcher is now out of the title picture since they kind of tease a turn for Guevara. Interesting. Everything from the tag title match to the main event was excellent, and it actually felt like their biggest show of the year. Sal says, yay, Hangman Page is new world champion. Chris Holt, so far the lone boo, I think. It's a flat-out boo, though. Can't fault the majority of the matches, but Tony Khan is more indulgent than the prog rockers of the 70s. Tuned in live as an 8 p.m. start time in the UK was ideal and went to bed at 11 thinking I'll have 90 minutes to watch in the morning. But no, another 3 hours nearly. Tony Khan can book a good card, but he doesn't get to monopolize my time. So for his time keeping alone, this is a boo. For his timekeeping alone, this is a boo. Okay, shame, as there were some really good bits. Yeah, you know, I'm not a fan of the 2-day pay-per-view PLEs either, but this is where it's almost justified. This could have been 2 shows, right? Kirk Meltzer says, Metzler, sorry. Sounds like somebody else. Kirk says, AEW is on the right path and finally focusing on storytelling. I agree 100% with that. That's exactly what I said after watching the show. Eric followed that up with saying, when you have great storytelling mixed with great in-ring work, that's the wrestling we all love. I love it when the trolls look stupid calling it bad. Yeah, we're not going to justify that, but I get what you're saying, Eric. It's, you know, there's always going to be goods and bads and everything. Steven says, yay for a show that had the big feel, great matches, and the right ending, which was equivalent to Avengers Endgame, and on a personal note, ending at a reasonable time on the East Coast where I could still enjoy the rest of my night. Yeah, it ended at a reasonable time, I suppose, but still 7 hours when you include the 0 hour, man. Back to Eric's original comment, though. He said, big yay, great matches, emotional connections across the board that you could feel, and it felt huge. They really had no problem putting on a great large-scale spectacle of a show. When it's all said and done, it's probably going to be show of the year, unless they top it again, which is possible, but that perfect storm came together just right. And finally, my pal who would normally be here joining us on the show, Joe Aguinaldo, says, yay, great matches and great moments, and to me, this pay-per-view was the star of this weekend, even over the spectacle of Gunther and Goldberg. I agree 100%. And you know what? AEW got it just about 100% right, I feel. The only thing, again, I'm going to say is 7 hours is a work day. That's a work day for a lot of people, okay? Maybe not a full 8 hours, but you know what I'm saying. Either way, we do have feedback on the other shows. We'll get to that next week, but we are plumb out of time, even going commercial free. Look at that. So we'll be back with you again next week with more McGuire on Wrestling, more of your feedback, which you can leave on the Celebrate Wrestling page, and we will talk to you then. Until then, as always, thanks for listening and letting me do what I do. Play safe, drive safe. Be seen ya.
McGuire on Wrestling. Online and on the radio. Listen to the show Mondays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time at CKXU.com, wherever you get your podcasts, and at McGuireShow.com.